I am going to teach you agriculture, a chapter in which we will be learning about the importance of agriculture. The first thing that we need to know about the topic is the fact that India is an agriculturally important country. Why do we consider India an agriculturally important country? Because 2/3 of the people are engaged in agriculture. Secondly, it is one of the major primary activity. It provides us a lot of food, and so many industries are dependent on it, like the sugarcane industry. The next topic that we take is types of farming. The cultivation method that has been used in a country or in any country or in any place is dependent on various factors. The first factor is the physical factor. We can understand it better if we look in the slide below. Here we see step farming being done. Now what happens in step farming? The area is mountainous. The mountainous area has been converted into steppes so that agriculture can be done. So here we can answer that physical environment influences the way in which agriculture is done. The next important thing that we need to know is about how the technological know-how influences agriculture. Here you can see a very advanced type of agriculture being done, that is the plantation agriculture. In plantation agriculture we see that the people are very, very advanced. So the heading, the book says technological know-how. So here you can see technologically they are very, very advanced, and this is being shown in this figure also. The third figure that we have is about animal rearing. Why has this figure been put here? This is because it shows about the socio-cultural practices. Children, on the basis of the type of people who inhabit an area, agriculture changes. Animal rearing is also a part of agriculture, and here we see that if there is demand of wool, sheep will be existing. Further, if people are meat eaters, again animal husbandry will be of greater importance, and mixed farming may also be taken up. So with this we come to the next slide, and the next slide is about primitive subsistence agriculture. Primitive subsistence agriculture is done by using the household labor. In this agriculture, the tools are hoe, dhow, digging stick, and the family labor is involved. The other name for this agriculture is slash and burn agriculture. Here in this picture, which you see in front of us, you can see jhum cultivation being practiced. Jhum cultivation is a cultivation which is practiced as slash and burn agriculture, and in this particular agriculture we find that the people burn the area and then they start growing crops. The whole process is called as jhuming. If you see the word jhum is a circular movement. You must have heard about jhum, barabar, jhum. That jhum word, in which there is a circular motion, is what jhuming means. In this, land keeps changing one by one. And further you will notice the jhumed landscape of Garo Hills. Now in Garo Hills you can see a lot of area has been burnt and agriculture has been done. But if you see the burnt out area, it shows that there is a lot of soil erosion that takes place. So this type of agriculture may not be very, very influential in terms of development of the area. Why? Because it will lead to a lot of soil erosion. Further we see this particular agriculture will have various names in accordance to the area where this agriculture is being done. It may be jhuming, it may be milpa, it may be deepa, palmao. All these names will be given to this agriculture. There are different areas where it is practiced, and in the next slide we see the word milpa. Now milpa is the agriculture that is practiced in Mexico. So here this picture is of Mexico. That means it is towards Central America. So in Mexico and Central America we have the milpa harvest, which we are seeing here. In the next slide, we see the people doing the cycle of June is being explained. The cycle of June, if you see, it's a circular cycle. You can see an arrow, and that arrow moves from beginning to the end. And what does it say? First the area is cleared. Once the area is cleared, agriculture is done. After some days, the land regains its fertility, and again it turns into the same forest. So the whole thing goes back to the nature again. So this is the concept of milpa. And with this, we will come to the next heading of agriculture that we have to see, and that is before we reach the next heading, here we are showing you the standard of living of the people who are involved in the slash and burn agriculture. This is the house of a person practicing slash and burn agriculture in the northeast. So you can see the people are very near to the nature. The level of living is quite low. And then we come to the next heading, and that is the intensive subsistence farming. In the farming that we studied before, the land used to change. In no other agriculture, the land changes. And this is the second agriculture that we are studying, and this is the intensive subsistence farming. In intensive subsistence farming, we see that the people are involved, and a large number of people are working on the land. And in this type of agriculture, the standard of people may not be very, very high. And what we find is that in this type of agriculture, the population pressure is too high. There is a lot of irrigation practices being followed now, and there is higher yield. Yet the land becomes smaller and smaller because of right of inheritance. The land becomes smaller. With this type of agriculture, we see how people are living very near to nature. In India, in states where water is not available, intensive subsistence agriculture is the only alternative. So next agriculture that we are looking at is the commercial farming. As you see in the figure here, a lot of machines are used in this type of agriculture. HYV, insecticide, pesticides, fertilizers, all of them are used. When it comes to India, in Punjab and Haryana, we have got this agriculture to a great extent. And this agriculture is a very successful agriculture in India. Plantation agriculture is also existing, which we will be studying in the next slide. Now this is the plantation agriculture. In plantation agriculture, one single crop is grown in a large area. You must have heard about tea, coffee, rubber, sugarcane. They are all a part of the plantation agriculture. And what do we see? That in this, it's a largely capital intensive industry in which a large amount of capital is used. And we find that a large amount of investment is done, but the results are very good, and the farmer here is rich, and there's no shortage. But usually when it comes to tea, we know that it has all been commercialized, and there is something called agri-business that has come in, where the owners of the land are the companies and not the people who are a part of it. In the next slide, we are going to understand the cropping pattern. We are on page 36 of the book, and here we see the cropping pattern. Now when you see the cropping pattern, in the figure you see different crops being shown, like wheat, rice, jowar, maize, barley. Why have I put this figure here? This figure is not here that you may learn the data. This figure is here so that you may see the name of the various Rabi crops. The next one is the Kharif crop. Now, before I go to the Kharif crop, let us try to understand more about the Rabi crops. And in Rabi crop, what do we see? That they are usually grown in winter, in the month of October to December, and they are harvested in April and June. So this is a winter crop. Rabi crop is a winter crop. Secondly, what do we find? Wheat, barley, peas, grams, all of them grow in this particular type of cropping pattern. The next heading is about the Kharif crops. And Kharif crops, if you see, are the ones which are grown with the onset of monsoons. And we can see here Bajra, Maize, Jowar, and then pulses, arhar, urad, moong, cotton, oil seeds like soya, groundnut, sunflower, castor, all of them are growing. And so what do we see in Kharif crop? That in this particular thing, we find that the crops are growing in the season when the rainfall takes place. When it was Rabi, it was winter crop. When it is Kharif, it is the crop that grows in the rainy season. And then comes the third season, which has been discussed in our book. And the third season, as the figure shows you, is the season of the Zaid crop. And in Zaid crop, you have got watermelon, muskmelon, cucumber, and other vegetables also that grow. So these are things that grow between the summer and the winter crop, right? So further, we will come to the major cropping pattern and the major crops that are grown in our country. Before I go to the major crops, let me tell you that there are three types of paddy. Paddy means rice. So there are three types of paddy: As, Aman and Boro, and they are grown in the state of West Bengal, Assam and Orissa, and all the three crops are grown throughout, one after the other, within this area of northeast. Right. So with this we move on to the major crops, and the first major crop that we are going to discuss is rice. Rice is the most important crop when it comes to the number of people it can feed in our country. Even in China, you know, a large number of people are eating rice. So rice is a very important crop because it can take care of a large number of people. In the next slide, you see a person sowing the crop. This is a part of transplanting. The plant is grown in a nursery, and from the nursery it is then planted to the main field. Now this crop in reality is a part of the intensive subsistence agriculture. Why? Because a large number of people are involved in it. It is totally a manual work, transplanting the crop from the nursery and then taking it to the whole area and then growing it. And as the rice grows, along with rice, fish is also made to grow, because fish adds to the nutrients which are needed for the people. Further, we see in the figure the grown up rice crop, and you can see how the rice crop looks. And in the next picture you will see as to how, as the crop dries, you can see any crop, when it has to be harvested, it dries out and then only it is harvested. And then you see different type of rice that exists. Let me tell you that this crop requires a temperature of 25 degrees Celsius and an annual rainfall above 100 centimeters. So what I need to show you more is the fact that in certain states, as on in the map on page 37 of your book, you will see that the total amount of rice grown towards the areas where the rainfall is more. So usually it is more at the places where rainfall is more than 100, and as the rainfall reduces, the amount of rice growth is also reduced, and then it is taken up by the next crop, that is wheat. So wheat grows in the areas where the rainfall is less than 75. So here you have got wheat grains. People in north all eat a lot of wheat. Wheat is our main food crop. Rice was our staple food crop, and wheat is our main food crop. And what does it require? It requires cool growing season and bright sunshine at the time of growing. It requires a cool growing season and bright sunshine is required so that the harvest can take place. And the harvest takes place when it is very, very dry. And what do we find? That there are two important zones in the country, one in the north and one in the south. In the north, the area is of Punjab, and in the south, the area is towards Maharashtra. And what do we find? That in this particular crop, it has got a lot of strength. You can see in the next picture a wheat field, and then you can also see as the wheat grows, and it is at this time you can see it has fully grown up, and this is how the wheat appears. So with this we come to the next heading, and that is millets. Now when you look at the word millets, there are three things that are very important in this. They are the Jowar, the Bajra, and the Ragi. So Jowar, Bajra and Ragi, they are also considered as coarse grains. What are they considered as? Coarse grain. What are coarse grains? Coarse grains are smaller grains in size than wheat and rice. They are much smaller than this, and that is why they are considered as coarse grain. And further you can see that the next slide shows you Jowar. And Jowar, if you see, is the third most important food crop in terms of the area. So first one was wheat, second one was rice, and the third one is the Jowar. And what do we find? That Jowar maximum production takes place in the state of Maharashtra. And I'll be adding one map in the end of the whole slideshow where you can see the production of all these crops. Further, we can see here in this picture, we see Jowar we have already seen, and we can see again how it grows, and then comes Bajra. No, this is Jowar at the moment, and you can see the seeds of Jowar, and then again how the Jowar grows. You can see here in this particular slide Jowar as it grows, and then comes Bajra. And if you look, it is quite different from what Jowar is. Jowar is quite thick. If you see, you can notice here Jowar, and when you go back, you reach Bajra, you can see what's the difference. Again, you can show Jowar, and you see Jowar, and now you compare it with Bajra. So two millets have been compared, and let us see how Bajra looks like. I think most of you must have seen this, because sometimes we buy this to give it to the birds. And so this is Jowar. After this Jowar comes Bajra. Bajra, if you see, it grows in the state of Rajasthan. Rajasthan is the largest producer of Bajra. And then we go on to Ragi. Ragi is red in color. Now this is something which I discovered when I was making this slideshow. I never knew Ragi was red in color, but once I started searching for the slides, I saw it for the first time that Ragi is red in color, and in the state of Karnataka, maximum Ragi grows. And with this, you can see further again Ragi seeds are being shown, and then further we move on to corn. Corn is nothing but maize. If you see, it's a new entrant in our crop list. It has its origin in South America. From South America, this crop has come to India. I think it's North America, and we find that this crop is a very important crop even in this country, where it is used as food and fodder. Even in America, it is used as a very important fodder crop. Further, we see in terms of temperature, the temperature requirement is 21 to 27 degrees Celsius. Here you see the maize seeds which are existing. It is a Rabi crop, and it grows in the states of Karnataka, UP, Bihar, Andhra Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh. After this are the various pulses which you already know, like the tur, urad, moong, masoor, peas and rams. Next we move on to the next topic, that is our sugarcane. Now when you look at sugarcane, if you see, is a very important crop. People believe that it started growing in our country, and it is one crop which requires a lot of water. So if there is shortage of water, what will happen is the sugarcane will have stunted growth. It's a tropical crop. Tropical crops means it grows near to the equator. Further, we find that the temperature requirement for this crop is 21 to 27 degrees Celsius. The rainfall may be 75 to 100 centimeters. Now that means it requires a lot of water. And what do we find? That this particular crop, that is the sugarcane, it produces a lot of things. And here you have sugar in front of you, something which every one of us likes. And next slide again talks about the sugar cubes, which also is a product that comes from sugarcane. And who can miss this jaggery or gur, which also is dried out sugarcane juice. Further, if you see, when sugarcane is crushed, there is some waste material that is coming out, and that waste material is shown here. This is the sugarcane bagasse, and here you can see a lot of sugarcane bagasse. What do we find? That the major states producing it are UP, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Bihar, Punjab and UP. And this map here is a very enlightening map, and as I was making the slideshow, I felt there were some maps missing, and here now I see a map of sugarcane, and that's a very good one. If you see, the map is showing the areas of the north, and it's a great thing to see the sugarcane growing in two regions. One is in the UP region and the other is in the southern region. So in both the regions you see it is growing very well. So further we move on to the next topic, and that is the oil seeds. Oil is very important for people of India. You know how much oil we all consume, and that oil, not only do we consume, it influences us to a great extent. A lot of problems are existing in this world because of too much of use of oil, as you all know. So here you see groundnut. Groundnut is a very important source of oil, and here the groundnuts are for you. Now you can have them. And further you see, as we move further, we see how the mustard grows. Mustard oil is something which all of us know, and here you can see how the mustard seed grows, and this is the mustard plant, and from this comes the mustard seed, and from the mustard seeds comes this particular thing. So now we can see another crop, another oil crop which is growing. And next slide we are seeing coconut, and coconut is something which you all know. I need not explain. It is rich in oil. Coconut oil is also something which you all must have used, and there is nothing that I can add to explain this. And here you have got the soya bean. Soya bean is in the market, you must have all seen soya bean. And then comes, from this we move on to the seeds of soya bean, which also are a very delicious thing to eat. And then I lead you to the valley of flowers. Here you have beautiful flowers. All of them, I know you know, are sunflowers. Further we can see again the slide that shows about the sesamum. Sesamum again is an oil seed. Then we come to the seeds of sesamum, that was the plant. If I go back, here I see the sesamum plant, and here I see again another sesamum plant, and there its flowers also I see, and then I see the seeds of the plant. How nice it is, and how good it is to see all what we teach being shown right in front of our eyes. We also studied, but we never studied it the way you are studying it today. and it is a great pleasure to teach you this way, where we can show you what we want to. And here if you see, it's the tea plantations, and in the tea plantation you can see there are trees growing. These trees are for the protection of the whole area, because the tea plant is a plant which requires protection from the moisture that falls from above. So that is why bigger trees are grown. The smaller things that are growing, they are the tea plant. In tea plant, usually what happens is that this is the tea plant. You can see the leaves of the tea plant, and the first 3 leaves or the first 2 leaves are taken up, and once they are taken up, they are used for making of tea. And here you see very skillful hand. When it comes to tea plantation, we say skilled labor. Here you can see skilled labor working and picking up the first 2 or 3 leaves for making the tea, and then these leaves go for the process of curling, and then comes the tea that you take at your home. The product that comes never looks as if it is coming out of the leaf. It turns into a granule, and this process is a very money involving process, and this process is called as the process of curling. The curling process is done right in the field, and then it is packed right there, and then it is sent to the market. So all these Tata Tea, etc., they have got their whole packing units right in the mountains itself, so that the tree that is grown, it may not become drier or it may not lose its savor. Further we see, here we can see coffee plantation. Who has not understood about coffee? Coffee is something so important. You know how people started growing coffee and how coffee became so important. What happened was that coffee in reality is something that has come to our country from the Middle East. In the Middle East, there was a British official who saw that some sheep who managed a particular plant, they had a very restless night. And then that particular plant, from that extracts were taken out and coffee was created. So this is that plant, and you can see the coffee growing in this. Here is the coffee plantation being shown, and further if you see, here you see a lady picking the same thing when it is in a right position, and you can see this is in Korg. Korg must be an area in South India where coffee plantation is done. And further you can see in the next figure, and I'm so happy that this figure is here, that coffee plantation is being shown. And what do I find that in the South India and in Northeast India, in both these areas we have got plenty of coffee growing, and this is very good presentation. If a map is there, our geographical presentation becomes good. And next we move on to the topic of plantation. Now if you move, we have skipped the topic of horticulture. Horticulture is an easy topic in which all the all the fruits are there. You can do it on your own. We'll be now moving to page 42, where it is rubber. Now if you see rubber requires moist and humid climate, and it requires more than 200 centimeters of rainfall, and the temperature requirement is 25 degrees Celsius. And rubber is usually grown in KKT. Now what is that KKT? KKT is Kerala, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, right? So remember the word KKT for rubber. And there's a way you can remember the growth of rubber or the production of rubber. You write 25 out of 200. 25 is the temperature requirement and 200 is a rainfall requirement. So 25 over 200 is a good way of learning the rubber plantation. And here if you see, the rubber in reality is grown in the trees, as you see in the slide. a lot of rubber trees are growing. They are growing, and here you see from these trees we are taking out milk, and this milk is then turned into rubber. You may see very black tires. This is because of adding of carbon, so that the rubber may not get destroyed in one go. So that is why carbon is added into that particular rubber, and this white thing is called latex, and this latex is very essential for all our automobile industries. Leave alone rubber used by children. No automobile can move without. When it comes to our cars, trucks, buses, rubber is a very essential thing to move on the road. Now I take you to a very important topic, that is the fiber crops. And when it comes to the fiber crops, I am going to show you a silkworm. Here you can see a cocoon, and as the cocoon breaks open, you find a silkworm coming out of the cocoon. It's a very interesting thing to watch this particular picture, because for me it was an information to see a cocoon and a silkworm. I had thought about it, but I haven't seen it before this all. Here you can see a large number of larvae. Larva makes a cocoon around it, and you can see the larva, when it grows up, it turns into this cocoon. And as you see this cocoon, this larva keeps eating this particular plant. It grows on a particular plant, and those leaves on which it grows, it keeps eating them, and it keeps developing a cocoon around them. And you can see here the cycle. This is how it begins. First the eggs are laid by the adult moth. The eggs leave out their larva. The larva starts growing. The larva starts spinning a cocoon around it, and the cocoon, all the cocoons that grow up, a large number of them are taken for making of the thread, in which they are boiled in the water and the silk is taken out. The ones which do not die like this, they are the ones which complete the cycle and lay eggs again. And this is how the silkworm's life cycle increases. And with this we can move on to the next crop. And when we were talking about this topic about growth of the silk, this whole concept of rearing of silkworm is called as sericulture, right? So now I come to cotton. Now when it comes to cotton, children, here is cotton. Isn't it wonderful to see an area so wide, full of cotton balls? I never knew it could be like this. Really, it was an information for me to see such a beautiful picture in which there's all cotton growing, and the whole plant is nothing but cotton itself. Further we see how it looks. This is another variety of cotton, and you can see cotton everywhere. Within one particular branch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a great achievement. Oh yes, and here you have the cotton producing areas in our country. There are two types of cotton that we have, the long staple and the medium staple. The long staple are the better quality ones, and they grow in Punjab, the one in the north, and they grow there because of presence of water. The medium staple grows in the states of Maharashtra, and if you see the red color below for the states of Maharashtra, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, you can see here as here all this area here, the Deccan Trap region has got a lot of black soil, and this black soil region that you have, in this you have got a plenty of growth of cotton. And cotton is something which cannot be, there's no substitute for cotton, because cotton has its own value and its own significance. There may be many synthetic cloth, but there is no substitute for cotton in various ways. Further we look at the fact that it grows in areas where there is high temperature, and very light rainfall. It requires 210 frost-free days. It's a kharif crop and it grows in the states which we have already discussed. So now let's move on to the next topic, and here you are. This is jute. No need to tell you that this is jute. Jute products that are shown. Jute was a very important crop. It was considered as the golden fiber. The most important crop it was when there was no synthetic substitutes available. But because of synthetic substitutes, this crop has lost its luster. Further, you can see how well jute is being utilized, and it can be used for making carpets. But today the demand for much more softer carpets have made jute outdated. In this picture you can see how jute is being shown, and further we see in the next picture the various products made of jute, and here you have got gunny bags made of jute. Further we see ropes made of jute, and the next one is the map that shows the production of jute. You will notice where there is water, a lot of water, there jute exists. Near West Bengal, Bangladesh being outside India, if you see, is also a major producer of jute. West Bengal is also, because of river Hooghly in the delta. The crop is, ratting of the crop is done, and then the crop is used. Further, what do you see in this particular crop? That this particular crop has requirement of high temperature, and it requires well-drained fertile soil. So with this we conclude our today's session, and thank you very much for watching.